Welcome, today's story is full of drama. Like and subscribe to stay updated. Let's get started.
There she was, only this time with someone new. It didn't matter anymore because I had moved on and found someone from my past who made her irrelevant. I knew a confrontation was coming on Thursday. That Sunday evening, I walked into Red Lobster alone. She was there with a man I knew, but it wasn't her current husband. I was waiting to celebrate my niece Emma's 15th birthday with my sister and her daughters, Lily and Sarah. We had planned this night for over a month. The woman who rattled me was my ex-wife, Julia. Her current husband was the man she had cheated on me with during our short marriage. Apparently, he was in for the same treatment. I discreetly pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures before they noticed me. Julia's face showed the same guilty expression I'd seen when I confronted her about the end of our 2-year marriage. I'm Daniel Scott Reynolds, Danny to my family and friends. Julia Rivers, formerly Reynolds, is 30, while I'm 32. The man with her was Michael Lawson, my soon-to-be former business partner. We co-own Apex Cyber Solutions, a computer security firm. Michael knew my stance on fooling around with married women. When he noticed me, he spotted the phone in my hand and visibly deflated. Determined not to ruin the evening for my family, I turned away and sat on a bench to wait for Anna and the kids. Anna's husband had left for parts unknown with a younger woman, so I had stepped in as a father figure for her daughters. Just as Julia began walking toward me, Anna and the girls entered the restaurant. I quickly got up and greeted them, receiving warm hugs from all 3 girls. Anna must have sensed something was wrong. She glanced at Julia and whispered, "Don't let her get to you. She messed up, not you. Looks like she didn't learn anything from your divorce." "I'm not worried about her," I said. "She's here with Michael." I told him that if I ever saw him with a married woman, our partnership was over. He's a shameless skirt chaser, but I thought he cared enough about the business. Monday, I'm done with him. I'll either buy his shares, sell mine, or take them to the open market. I took a deep breath, letting the tension go. Now I smiled. Let's enjoy a wonderful dinner. No distractions, just great food and the celebration of you being the best mother those 3 girls could ever have. The dinner was wonderful. Emma loved the locket I got her and laughed when she read the inscription, "To one of my favorite nieces. Of course, your sisters are also my favorites." That earned me a playful punch on the shoulder and a wonderful hug and kiss. When the time comes for their birthdays, the other girls will get a locket of a different precious metal with the same inscription. I met Julia Mitchell when I was fresh out of college and doing some freelance computer security work at the office where she worked. She was a junior personal assistant, and the entire company had been hit with a Trojan horse. The Trojan wasn't designed to destroy any data. It just recoded all of their user information and deleted all of their passwords. I asked for a person from their staff with computer input skills to assist me, and the company assigned Julia. I found the Trojan and we backtraced it to the install date and the computer where it had been installed into the system. I concluded that it was deliberate sabotage, and the company said it was from a fired former employee. I restored all of the recoded data and added a military-grade handshake protocol and robust anti-malware/antivirus software. With their problem resolved and the data restored, the company issued new passwords and paid me. They also gave me a glowing letter of praise for my fast, efficient work. The word went out that I could solve some troublesome problems. I not only got paid, but I got a date with Julia. We went out regularly for a couple of months, and I asked Julia for exclusivity. She said not yet, so I stopped asking for dates. I wasn't angry, but I was confused. She must have been double-stacking dates or dating during the week because we were together almost every weekend. About a month later, Julia called and asked why I hadn't called. When I explained that if she wasn't ready to be exclusive, then she wasn't committed to seeing if our relationship was going anywhere. We did not get back together then. About this time, my business was doing so much work that I needed an assistant. I interviewed several people, and when I got to Michael, he told me how I could expand in a better way and offered to buy into the business for 45% of the company. I agreed. We ended up with 5 employees and were very busy and profitable. Julia called again a few months later and asked if I was willing to date her again. I said I could see a way to do that, but that I wouldn't ask for an exclusive arrangement. I told her if she could date others, then so could I. I added that there would be no sex until she decided that I was the one and only. Well, that went over like a turd in the punch bowl. I heard a click as she hung up. I was disappointed but not surprised. She wasn't one to listen to someone pointing out her problems. She called me a week later and asked me to go to a play with her. She knew I was a sucker for live theater. We went. That started our dating again. We dated this time for nearly a year when, one Friday after dinner, Julia said she was now exclusive. I said I wasn't. I left. I lied. I had been exclusive, but like a little boy who had his favorite toy broken, I was still pouting. She hadn't turned down any dates with me, and there were only a couple of weekends that we didn't go out Friday and Saturday. She called again a couple of weeks later. This time, she started out with a surprisingly funny-sounding, "Hey, idiot, are you over your little fit?" Then she giggled. "Yeah, I guess I am. Shall we start as only works for me?" We dated for another 6 months when I asked her to marry me. She said yes. Then she went into bridezilla mode. We set a date for 6 months out and started with a family-only wedding. Julia didn't get along well with my family. My mother took me aside and told me to keep a close watch on her, as she was checking out other men when we were all at a restaurant for dinner. I, being of unsound mind and basic stupidity, ignored her. I did take one piece of her advice. I had my business lawyer draw a prenup to protect my business. It also prescribed penalties for adultery or abuse. We continued planning, and as the wedding date approached, the guest list got longer. She must have invited her entire high school and all of their second cousins. I invited my family. I informed Julia that while it was her day, I wouldn't be paying for 300 people at our reception. So she needed to find the money somewhere or call the reception off, and we would have a family celebration like we had originally planned. She got the money somewhere. The reception was so big we had to have a second seating for dinner. The reception was one hell of a party, and we left late. After we left to start our honeymoon, the cops were called to break up a brawl between some of Julia's family and some of her cousins. When I called Mom the next day, she told me she hadn't had that much fun in ages. She added that Julia's mom would have a shiner for at least 2 weeks, and one of her cousins was suffering a concussion. 3 others were also sporting bruises. At least 10 people got show-cause tickets for drunk and disorderly conduct. We went to Charleston, South Carolina, for our honeymoon. We had a room on the Atlantic side of a beachfront hotel. We spent time on the beach and also went to Savannah to see some of the historic sites. When we returned to start our wedded bliss, I had a small backlog of customers asking for some of our services. I had become the salesman for the company. I was almost as skilled as Michael at computer security, but he was a true geek and had very poor people skills. The catch-up overtime was less than a week. Julia found a job keeping the books for a local home improvement store. She also helped at the cash register, covering lunches and breaks. It paid above minimum wage but was hourly, not salaried. The business was rolling along well. My marriage? Not as well. We had been married for a little more than a year when Julia started working late 2 or 3 times a week. That wouldn't have been a problem, but her paycheck showed no overtime and was the same size every week. I decided that I would not put up with it and confronted her. She didn't deny anything. In fact, she acted like she was pleased that I found out about her cheating. She asked for a divorce and told me she only wanted her clothes and jewelry. I agreed. Less than 18 months after I got married, I was unmarried. About 6 months after the divorce, I saw an announcement in the local paper. Miss Julia Mitchell was wed to Robert Evans in a small civil ceremony over the past weekend. Mr. Evans is the owner of Evans Hardware and a widower for the past 4 years. It is the second wedding for both. I was not surprised. I thought that she had been messing around with her boss. Well, I continued to work and began to spend more time with my sister and her daughters. I also did a lot of butt kissing, making up to my mother. She still loved me even when I was brain dead. As the Bayer Children's aspirin commercial used to say, mothers are like that. Yeah, they are. I moved on but did not jump back into the dating pool. I was put off from getting into that scene because of what Julia had done to me. I realized that I was hurt more by the lying than by her cheating and the divorce. After the dinner, I went back to my house and decided to have the family over for a cookout on Saturday after they all went to church. I called everybody early Friday and set it up. I have a large yard, and, being a gadget freak, I have the latest in a charcoal smoker and a restaurant-grade stove and oven. Because I was single again, I did not use them much. Cooking for just yourself is not a lot of fun. When it came to getting invites accepted, I have an advantage. I have an indoor pool and a very large backyard. Anna's girls loved both and could swim as if they lived in the water, so they were always on my side for parties at my house. After I got everyone on the same page for the barbecue, I went and got some charcoal, hickory chips, and a 14-pound brisket. I added salad fixings, pickles, olives, a couple of different sauces, and ice cream and fruit for desserts. My mother was going to make her scalloped potatoes, and Anna was going to make a 3-bean casserole. Like we always did, we would split up the leftovers so everyone, except the host, left with more than they brought. After prepping and getting the smoker going, I sat down to relax. About then, the calls started. The first one was Michael, trying to say that nothing was going on between him and Julia. I told him, "What I saw makes that a lie. So either you buy me out, I buy you out, or I'm selling my share of the company." I told him, "Give me a price on Monday, and then get the hell out of my sight." The next call was Julia. She asked if I was going to tell Robert. I told her, "No, but if I don't see a divorce notice in the paper in the next week, I will tell him. Even with you and him cheating on me, he doesn't deserve to be cheated on." She came back with, "It was the first time and you seeing us ruin the plans." "That doesn't matter," I said. "The plan was to cheat. That didn't change. I would bet $10,000 that you will try to meet again, and if you do meet, you will complete the plans. I just do not understand why you insist on getting married if you want to screw around. There are plenty of assholes who will." I ended the call and went to bed. The Saturday party was a blast, and the girls, Emma, Lily, and Sarah, wore themselves out swimming. The party didn't break up until after 9. A great time was had by all. Mom asked me if she could stay over. She wanted to talk to me. I made up the guest room. Mom stayed often enough that I had her keep sleepwear at my house. We cleaned up. I made sure the smoker was out and showered. Mom showered, got into her pajamas, and we sat in the den. She talked and told me about Julia and Michael. "I know how you feel about cheaters. I also know that you are not part of any group outside of work and your extended family. You go to work, come home, and that's it. You need to have someone in your life. You are still young. Don't let that cheating destroy your desire." Then she yawned. "Now I'm tired." It was a great party, and the girls wore me out just watching them. "Good night, my darling son. You are a good man. Get back out there. There are good women out there. I love you." Then she kissed my cheek and went to bed. I sat there in the dark and thought about what Mom had said. She made a lot of good points. I decided that I would see about the dating scene. I was never a drinker, so the bar scene was not my thing, but I did like to dance. And there were a couple of country dance halls in town. I decided to check them out. I also made a decision about the company. I knew Michael couldn't make a go of it by himself, so I would offer him a 30-day period where we would look for buyers, and both of us would be out of the ownership part of the business. I thought that I would recommend to the buyers that they keep Michael as the programmer/debugger. In my opinion, he was and is the best I had ever seen at that. As I said before, his people skills sucked. Several hours later, I went to bed for a solid 3 hours of sleep. The Monday meeting with Michael went surprisingly well. He even told me that, because I had ruined their plans, he thought about what would have happened if I had been her husband. He agreed to the 30-day plan and added that we should get someone to come in and place a value on the business. I called around and found a company in Pittsburgh that did those kinds of evaluations. They charged a flat fee and expenses and said someone would be at our offices before the end of the week. When I got home that night, Mom was still there. She wanted to know what I had been thinking about until 3 in the morning. I explained my plans and what I had done so far. She then surprised me by asking, "Why don't you help me sell my house and convert that large room over your garage into an apartment for me? I love it out here. It's quiet. The air is clean, and I like being around you." I thought about it for a couple of minutes and told her, That's a great idea, Mom. You know I like having you around, and you liking it out here makes me very happy. She smiled. I'm also going to take your advice from Saturday. I'm going to go to Dalton's Dance Emporium, a country dance hall, and start getting back into life. That got me a kiss and a request to take a day off work to help her move some of her stuff here. She would use the guest room until the garage apartment was done. The Friday paper came, and in the legal section was a notice of a petition for divorce, Evans versus Evans. She actually believed my ultimatum. Michael and I sold out for more, a lot more, money than we believed the company would be worth. Before we sold, we added an addendum to the sales agreement that required the buyers to retain our employees or give them all their accrued leave pay and an additional 2 months' salary. Michael stayed and put his money in a safe place. I put mine into a trust that invested in blue-chip companies. Mom moved in. I moved on and became a regular at Dalton's. I was popular because I seldom sat out a dance, never asked a lady that was there with a guy for a dance, and never turned down a dance if a lady asked me. The only problems I had were when I danced with a lady and some drunk tried to cut in. I solved most of those problems by telling the drunk, "I'd be glad to dance with you, but I insist on leading." That worked almost every time and got several drunks laughed out of the place. I had been going there about 6 months when I saw a familiar face. I saw the girl from high school that I had treated badly. I had been dating her for a couple of months and then suddenly told her that I was done with her. I didn't give her a reason, just that we were done. Megan Brooks was a wonderful girl, and what I did to her was wrong. Even all these years later, I felt bad about it. She saw me at almost the same time I saw her, and she made a beeline for me. I was not prepared for the wonderful smile she was wearing. She greeted me with a giggling, "How you doing, asshole? Break any hearts today?" Then she grabbed me and laid a kiss on me that curled my toes so hard they didn't uncurl until 10 minutes after the kiss was over. The applause from the peanut gallery was loud and enthusiastic. Then she led me over to the table where a couple of ladies were sitting. She continued busting my ego by introducing me as, "This is the scumsucker that dumped me back in high school." Then she laughingly added, "I think I'll punish him by making him dance with me the rest of the night." I got into the spirit of the game. "No, please, not that. The Constitution outlaws cruel and unusual punishment." Then I took her hand, and we did dance the rest of the night. As I was leaving, Megan kissed me again and gave me a slip of paper with her home phone and business number on it. "Call me, Danny." I had a great time. I started dating Megan on a regular basis. Her name was now Megan Hale, as her absent and no longer husband was Brian Hale. She was the mother of 10-year-old twin girls, Sophie and Emma, and had no ill feelings about what happened in high school. As she said, "We were 16 and 17 years old. You say you made a mistake when you broke us up, but I made a few mistakes along the way. That's all part of growing up. Yeah, I know you're right, but what I did has bothered me. I'm pleased that we have reconnected. I love your girls, and they seem to like me. Would you like to see where we are going with this?" I added, "It doesn't have to be sex. We both are not virgins, but I would like to not only have dates with you but family dates with your girls. Do they like to swim and have barbecue?" They both like to swim. As for barbecue, they haven't had it lately, so you may get some questions and funny looks. Then she continued, "Don't dismiss sex so quickly. I happen to love sex with Brian, and the few times I have had sex before Brian and after. There is nothing a caring partner does that makes it unwanted. I had experience with one uncaring asshole, and all he wanted to do was get himself off. Knowing you, I am sure that you are not a selfish son of a... Okay, how about we plan to have a barbecue this Sunday? I have an indoor pool and love to grill. The girls can wear themselves out, and you can reconnect with Mom. She always liked you better than me anyway." I laughed as I got a sweat. The barbecue went great. Megan and her daughters had a blast, and then her girls did the same thing my nieces did. 5 girls tore up the pool and wore themselves out. After the barbecue, Megan and her girls were regular weekend visitors. When possible, I had my nieces and Megan's girls all at the same time for sleepovers. Emma felt that she didn't need to be there to act as a chaperone, but she only missed a couple of the parties as she loved to swim. After almost 6 months, Megan asked me where I thought our relationship was going. I replied, I have been afraid of possibly hurting you again. But I love you and want to be with you always. She smiled, grabbed hold of me in a huge hug, and rained kisses on me. Will you marry me? I asked, then reached into my pocket for the ring box. I've been carrying this for a month, but I was afraid you would think it was too fast. She squeezed tighter and said, Yes, 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 I will marry you. Would you like to ask the girls what they think? Then she laughed and continued, You had better not mention that if we get married, the girls will be able to use the pool daily. That is an unfair bribe. We sat the girls down. I started, Girls, I have an important question to ask you. You are not in trouble, but this is important. Would you be comfortable if I got married to your mother? I'm not trying to replace your father, but I would like to be your stepdad. I love you too as if you were my daughters. Sophie, always the brash one, put her finger on her cheek and said, Well, it will cost you. We insist on permanent access to the pool and at least one pizza night a month. Megan, Emma, and I cracked up. When I held out my arms, both girls rushed over and let me hug them. Then Emma did something I was not expecting. She kissed my cheek and quietly asked, When you marry Mom, can I call you Daddy? Well, I don't know where the onions came from, but my eyes started to water, and I couldn't speak for a few seconds. I would be proud to be your daddy, sweetness, and you would be one of my favorite daughters. Swat. This time, from two little girls as they giggled and said almost in unison, We would be your only daughters, so we would have to be your favorites. Hey, that's right. It wouldn't be fair to have just one of you as my favorite, but I do love you both. So you're both my favorites. That got Megan involved in the group hug, and I felt her tears on my shoulder, where she buried her face. She whispered, You have made me so happy and proud of you. You are going to be their dad and my husband until the end of our time. That eventually ended up being the third best day of my life. Megan, Mom, and Anna went into planning mode. They decided that since we had both been married before, we should have a family wedding. Megan's parents were gone, so Mom, Anna, and all 5 girls were in the wedding party. Michael was my best man. He actually did turn over a new leaf and had a fiancée of his own. The wedding became the second best day of my life. We took all 5 girls to Orlando and spent way too much on souvenirs and food. But 5 exhausted girls and a very happy wife made it a wonderful honeymoon. Emma didn't even complain when we put her in charge of the younger ones while Megan and I had some us time. About 4 months after we got married, a police detective showed up at the house. When I answered the door and verified his ID, he asked, I'm looking for Megan Hale. Is she here? Yes, she is, but it's Mrs. Reynolds now. I'll go get her. Would you come in and have a seat? She's watching over the girls in the pool. I went and had the girls get out of the pool and told Megan about the policeman. I told her I would be next to her the whole time, so she shouldn't be afraid. I'm not afraid, she said. Nervous, but not afraid. With that, we walked into the den, where I had seated the detective. Ma'am, I'm Detective Sergeant Gray. It is my sad duty to inform you that your daughter's father, Brian Hale, was found dead 3 days ago. Preliminary results of the autopsy indicate that he died of a heart attack brought on by illegal narcotic misuse. He did not overdose the last time he used, but it pushed his damaged heart into complete cardiac failure. We only found you because of his emergency contact list. Apparently, he had kept up with your whereabouts, as it listed you at this address. Megan breathed a big sigh. I know it sounds cruel, but I do not have any feelings for the man who deserted his family when my daughters were less than 4 years old. I am sorry he is dead, and I did love him once, but he has been dead to me for more than 6 years. The officer gave Megan a copy of the report and a card with contact information to get copies of the death certificate. He explained that she would be able to get some Social Security benefits for the girls until they turned 18. He added, We will send you all of the personal effects that we found on his body and residence. Your ex-husband was not destitute. There were many documents, and you will receive all of them. We discovered 4 different IDs and had a difficult time finding which one was real. The military fingerprint database confirmed that your ex was indeed Brian Hale. About 2 weeks later, Megan got a large packet of documents. She asked me to assist her in going through it. We decided to take the girls to stay with Anna for a long weekend so we could have the time to go through all of it. We started with the things easy to identify. There were documents supporting all 4 IDs. These we put to the side. There were bills and bank statements. These we put in a different pile. Then there were 3 insurance policies. Each policy was for $250,000, and the beneficiaries were Megan and the girls. We put these with the bank statements. There were titles to 7 different vehicles. I did a kind of mental head scratch. Why would he have 7 vehicles, and where were they? I put those documents in a third pile. There were also several deeds to properties. Most were in or near Chicago, but one was in the Florida Keys and another was to a condo in Hawaii. These went in the pile with the vehicles. The biggest find was a sealed letter addressed to Megan. There was something besides paper in the envelope. Megan was shaking as she tried to open it. She finally gave it to me. I opened the envelope carefully, and a key fell out with a business card taped to it. I handed the letter and key to Megan. Megan, if you're reading this, I have died. I have regretted every day that I abandoned you and my daughters. When I did, I thought it was the safest thing I could do for the 3 of you. I was already beyond any help with the drugs I was taking. I was weak, selfish, and self-absorbed. I have managed to accumulate a lot of assets and money. I became a courier for some very bad people who paid me very well. It was possible for me to gain a lot of other people's stuff. I know it will not ease the pain I have caused, but hopefully what you retrieve from the safe deposit box that the key goes to will help you live more comfortably. The box is in a bank in Barbados. The name on the back of the card that is taped to the key has an additional envelope for you. All you have to do to retrieve that envelope is present the card to the man. The card also has his phone number. If you call him, when he asks how you got his name, say Sumatra 1972. He will understand and set up a time to allow you to retrieve the envelope. There is an authorization to access the bank and the box. Also in the envelope is enough money for you and a person to protect you to go there and come back. Please kiss my daughters and find a good man to live with for the rest of your life. You deserve it. Brian, we decided to get the death certificates first. When they arrived, I told Megan to claim the insurance money. She contacted the local agent, and when he verified that the policies were still valid and had been prepaid, she was told that the checks would arrive in 2 to 3 weeks as there needed to be some verification done. Megan gave the man our address and explained that the girls were only 11, so the checks to them would need to state that they were minors. He thanked her for the clarification. The next thing was to claim the Social Security benefits for the girls. One strange thing about the 4 IDs, each one used the same Social Security number. Then we made plans for Megan to meet the stranger who held the envelope. We arranged for Mom to watch the kids. Megan said unequivocally that I was to be her bodyguard. When she called the number, she put our phone on speaker. We heard what sounded like additional phones being dialed. When the phone was finally answered, a voice said, "Where did you get this number?" Megan replied, "Sumatra 1972. Very good. I am at the Federal Square building, room 413. I will see you at your convenience tomorrow between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Goodbye." Megan looked at me and said, "How in the name of the Creator will he know who we are? We will take the letter and the card. I don't know how else he would verify you are the one to receive the envelope. If he asks, we will show him the key, but we will not give it to him. It's also probable that, as he is here in the area, he has had people checking up on you." Well, the meeting was as strange as everything else that had been going on. As soon as we walked into the room, a monitor on the wall in front of us came on with a symbol displayed, and a voice said, "I see you brought your new husband, Mrs. Reynolds. That is good. Now, if you would hold up the business card and the key, we can get on with this." Megan held the items up, and a drawer slid out of the wall under the monitor. Megan went over, retrieved the envelope, and stepped back. The voice said, "Inside that envelope are 2 open-date round-trip tickets to Barbados. There is also money, bank instructions, and the codes you will need to access the bank accounts and safe deposit box. Good day." Then the screen went blank, and the door behind us opened. We left. I took some time that day to think. I told Megan what I was thinking, then called the detective who had come to the house. If I give you vehicle ID numbers, can you see who is listed as the owner? It's not something we think is illegal, but we want to make sure. If they are not listed as owned by one of the IDs, we will try to return them to the last listed owner. There are also several properties that need to have ownership verified. He said he would be glad to. I faxed him the papers with the VIN numbers and the property addresses. 2 hours later, he called me back with the information. All of the cars had been purchased at police auctions, and they were all registered to Brian Hale. Legally, they were now the property of his next of kin. The properties were all owned by a trust, with Megan and the girls as recipients of the trust upon the death of Brian Hale. He gave us the address of the law firm handling the trust documents. The next thing I suggested was to go find the vehicles. That turned out not to be a problem, as they were in a local warehouse listed as the owner's address. We received an additional express package with the vehicle keys and a garage door opener type device. The accompanying note said the device would allow the person holding it access to the building where the vehicles were being stored. Well, we knew what the cars and trucks were supposed to be, but not their condition. The 3 pickup trucks were tricked-out street cruisers. The 3 cars were an Audi S8, a Lexus LS 500, and a Mercedes-Maybach S680. The last vehicle was a Honda Goldwing with a sidecar. Next, we decided to check out the Chicago properties. First stop was the trust law firm to verify our identity. Most of the properties were warehouses, and all of them were profitable. One was a 5-bedroom Gold Coast penthouse condo on Lakeshore Drive near Grant Park. The other 2 properties could wait. The trip to Barbados was taken 3 weeks after school was out for the summer. Megan's girls moved into my house with my nieces while we went to retrieve the contents of the accounts and the safe deposit box. Once we arrived, we went to our hotel to rest. I was wary of being in a strange country, so I did not sleep soundly. Sometime around 2 a.m., I heard the door open. Since we had registered as Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, someone from the U.S. had given up our information. 2 men entered the room and froze as I turned the lights on. Their night vision goggles overloaded, and while they were temporarily blinded, I hit the biggest one with a solid steel bar I had brought with us. He went down immediately. When I turned on the other one, he was trying to get something from his pocket. I hit him, and he was down and out. I called hotel security and the local police. Needless to say, all sleeping was done for the night. The police knew the 2 bad guys and complimented me on subduing them without shooting them. The hotel fired the night desk clerk, and he was arrested because he had given the bad guys the key card. The leak of information from the U.S. would not be discovered today. We got our entire stay paid for by the hotel, including any meals we ate at the hotel restaurant. Megan was surprisingly calm, until everyone left. Then she rushed into my arms and started sobbing and shaking. I was so afraid that you would be hurt. You are a brave man and my hero. I love you. I will be okay. Just hold me. The next morning, I called back to the States. The first thing I did was ream the law firm's major partner a new a-hole and told him, if I find out that one of your employees gave these people the info, I will own your firm. I advised him that the 2 people who broke into the room were in police custody and were going to be questioned until they gave up everything they knew. I also called home and talked to Anna. I told her to call one of the local security companies and get guards for the house and grounds. I also promised her that we would make sure that she would not be out of money or a job. I guaranteed her that I would hire her as part of my new company. Once that excitement was over and, after a couple of hours of calming Megan down, we went to the bank and transferred all of the bank accounts to our bank back home. We had brought a large suitcase in case we needed it for the contents of the safe deposit box. We did not need it. The box contained a small stack of bearer bonds from some foreign countries and stock certificates from many U.S. and European companies. There were also 2 envelopes marked, "Deliver to the FBI upon my death." A note was included, "Do not open the envelopes." Well, when all was said and done, everyone in our blended family was now millionaires. I was from selling my company. Megan and her daughters were, because of their father's money. We also found the source of the information leak. The firm handling the trust had assigned a senior partner to the account. Afraid they would lose the commission on the trust, he had set up the assassination attempt. We sued the firm. After the settlement, the firm went out of business. Then, on Independence Day last summer, I got two important gifts that made that day the best day of my life. Megan handed me the adoption papers for the twins and a blue pregnancy test stick. I was now a new dad to two 12-year-olds and about to be a dad to a newborn. Life is very good. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.